Amazing. Today we are live with Tell Agency's Head of SEO, Nicola Hughes. Nicola, thank you so much for coming onto the webinar. Nicola, if everyone hasn't checked out our intro on her, a quick, brief introduction is that she is a mastery when it comes to SEO relationships with content creation and social media. She's also been talking a lot about her blog that we're going to be discussing as well. Which is going to be quite interesting. She currently has experience at Tell Agency, House Digital UK, and Dex Digital, which is her own little website that she runs on the side as well, which I'm very excited to chat to her about. So if anyone's listening that wants to have a little bit more insight and information on running side projects, Nicola's your goal, so stay tuned. And yeah, Nicola has had blogs that have attracted 100,000 unique visitors monthly and 150,000 page views. So very exciting stuff to start off with. So Nicola, how are you keeping? And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. So happy to be here. Yeah, I'm really good. It's been a busy week, reporting week, but it's Friday. So very much looking forward to that glass of wine tonight. And spending time with my kids over the weekend. But yeah, all good. How are you guys?
Awesome. Very excited to chat to you. And yeah, Nicola, for everyone that's listening can you tell us a little bit about your very interesting career journey, how you got into SEO and how you got into where you are now at Tell?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got, I would say, quite a unique sort of career journey. So I started off after I left university working at post office, and I was at post office for 11 years, very much inside the branch, running a branch alongside a team. And then when I was in my 30s, very early 30s, and I became pregnant with my first child, I'd gone from working 50-hour weeks to sort of being stuck at home under a baby, and I don't cope that well with not being very, very busy all the time. So what I started doing was I was in a sort of community with other mums, and we were sort of sharing information about what was working as a new mum in terms of like breastfeeding, bottle feeding, baby-led weaning, that sort of thing. And we were in a very small sort of Facebook group, and people started saying to me, God, the information that you're sharing is so valuable. It'd be great to sort of share that information to a wider audience. So I decided to set up a blog, and I'd never done anything like that before. But yeah, I just basically set up a basic WordPress site and just threw information on different topics out there. And I noticed sort of as I was adding more information to this site, I was starting to get traffic from different social media platforms like Pinterest, Instagram, but also started getting a lot of traffic from Google as well. And I thought, gosh, this is very, very interesting. So I carried on with that throughout my maternity leave, went back to the post office. I then, after another couple of years, got pregnant again with my second child. And at that point then, because of what was happening internally within the post office, I was offered voluntary redundancy. And I thought to myself, I can go and do something very similar in retail management again, or I can use this as an opportunity to sort of pivot into digital marketing. And obviously I'd got, a small bit of experience from running my blog and understanding sort of what worked and what didn't in terms of whether a post performed well on Google or not. So yeah, it was just an amazing opportunity. I think when you're offered voluntary redundancy, it's very, very scary because you think, oh my gosh, how am I going to bring in the money and what am I going to do? But I really tried to see it as an opportunity to sort of pivot my career. So fortunately for me, I live in a very small village in the northwest of England, and there's actually a digital marketing agency here in my little village, which is House Digital. So I reached out to the director there and I said, have you got any opportunities? I'm willing to sort of come, as an exec and work my way up. And thankfully, she gave me the opportunity. So I started at House Digital as a digital marketing executive. So it's doing a little bit of everything, a little bit of paid, a little bit of social, a little bit of SEO as well. And I was very grateful to her that she gave me that opportunity to sort of dabble in a little bit of everything. But what was really obvious to me was how much I loved SEO and how much I loved that thrill of sort of making those on-page tweaks, writing content that really sort of drove traffic for our clients. So after about 6 months of doing that, and it was also during COVID as well, so it was like very, very intense, working from home alongside my 2 children who couldn't go to school at the time as well. I decided to sort of start specializing in SEO. And then from there, I worked my way up to account manager level, then to senior account manager level. And then after being there for about 4 years, I was promoted to head of SEO. So as I joined the agency, it had grown and grown and grown. So this opportunity became available for me to move into that sort of leadership position, which was fantastic. But yeah, last year I decided it was time for a change, and I moved over to Tell Agency, also as head of SEO as well. So yeah, that's basically my story.
Awesome, awesome. I wanted to, I think, just start at the inception of it, which was the side projects aspect. Something quite interesting that I came across when I was going through Dex Digital was that you get a monthly views of about 30,000 page views, which was quite interesting. How did you, during the time when you didn't really have any experience with agencies or anyone in your community that was teaching you SEO, how were you sort of navigating learning about working with WordPress, tackling the visibility of blogs? And do you have any advice to SEOs that are sort of looking to just enhance their skill sets on their side projects?
Yeah, so it was obviously very, very challenging because I had absolutely no experience, and I did focus a lot of my efforts to start with on Pinterest because I felt that that was a really, really good driver of traffic, especially in terms of the baby-led weaning stuff. So I've got now several blogs which sit under the Dex Digital umbrella. So my first blog was called Mummy to Dex because my child is called Dex. Yeah, I guess what I spent a lot of time doing was reading a lot of sort of SEO journals online. You know, I suddenly then found about Google Search Console, which I had no idea about before, and then using that as a tool to understand what posts were performing well, what queries were the blogs sort of coming up for, that I could sort of build out extra blog posts about that as well to drive more traffic. I discovered Google Insights as well, so I could go in there and Google Trends, so I could see like what people were searching for. I obviously didn't have any access to things like SEMrush or Ahrefs, which I live and die by now. So it was using these sort of free tools to understand what are people searching for, going on social media and looking in sort of Facebook groups as well to see what people were talking about in different types of groups as well. And then from there, and sort of understanding how important it is as a blogger to sort of niche down, because with Mummy to Dex, I started talking about other things as well as baby sort of stuff, travel, as the world sort of opened back up after COVID, home, all those sorts of different things. I realized I actually need different blogs to tackle those key niches as well, which is why I then started building out my portfolio as well. But I will say having that agency experience then accelerated how those blogs were performing to the next level, because I was then suddenly able to understand a lot more, use different tools as well to sort of build those up. But I think the difficulty at the beginning was definitely the time having to put in to a side sort of gig. Because you're having to go to work 9 to 5 every day, and then you're literally having to drag yourself back to your computer in the evening to do all that work to get that visibility as well. So it's a lot of work at the beginning, but I feel like once you're in a good place, it then sort of starts to look after itself a little bit as well, which is nice.
And I came across your I think it was a post that you did about 3 weeks ago where you were talking about the yo-yo that you were experiencing on one of your blogs, which was quite funny. But I think what was quite interesting is that you haven't given up on Dex Digital. You've kept going with it along with all your agency experience. Why is that? Why have you kept that side project going?
Yeah, so there's 2 key reasons really why I keep that going. First of all, I think as an SEO, it's so important to have your sort of side projects where you can test things. So we all know that the landscape of SEO was changing drastically day after day. There's so many new things sort of coming into the pipeline. So having those sort of websites where I can go ahead and sort of test different elements is really important before I sort of make those recommendations to my clients. And then the second part of it is the income that it brings in for me as well. So that is why I now sort of have them sitting under this Dex Digital umbrella, because it's a fantastic way to make money on the side. And I think as a junior sort of person in digital marketing, we all know that the salaries aren't great when you're first starting out. Having that additional income coming in is just a lovely buffer, so that you can sort of like go and do all the wonderful things that you want to do in your spare time. Working in digital marketing, it's very hardcore. It's very intense at times. So being able to then at the weekends go away, do things with your friends, go out for meals, having that extra income to be able to support that is fantastic.
Awesome.
Nicola, I just want to sort of talk about the transition from being a branch manager, obviously running your own team, running your own department in post office, and then going into like an exec level role. Was there any sort of initial sort of struggles from that, from obviously leading a team to now sort of being led in a way?
Yeah, I certainly found that challenging because I was used to having a team of 11 people that I sort of coached, motivated. I was spending a lot of my working time doing sort of one-to-ones and appraisals and things like that. So from going from that to then suddenly having nobody to manage, I did find that challenging. But I think that's why I progressed so quickly in the agency, because obviously I had all those soft skills in terms of leadership and management. And I was very keen to sort of work my way up and be able to sort of, I am so passionate about supporting people and mentoring people. And I think that came across to the director. And yeah, I was very, very keen to progress in that way. Luckily, it was quite a quick progression, so I wasn't too long sort of being at exec level. But yeah, I guess the main challenge was just sort of chomping at the bit, wanting to sort of grow out my own team and start doing those sorts of things again. But obviously, I understood the importance of having to actually get my knowledge up to scratch at the beginning as well, and work hard on that.
And what, I don't know if it's a few years ago, but back then, what was the biggest sort of shock to you, or the biggest sort of realization or like eureka moment when you were learning a lot more about SEO that maybe you could translate to your blog?
Oh, that's a very, very good question. I think I had been relying so heavily on sort of referrals from Pinterest. When I started to work across different clients in the SEO space, and I could see how much traffic they were generating from different sort of blog posts and commercial page sort of opportunities, and also alongside that, the link building activity we were doing as well, I think that's when I was like, I actually need to be doing not just bashing out some blog posts and hoping for the best, but also thinking about how can I get some backlinks to these posts as well. And I think a big turning point for Mummy to Dex was when I actually gained a backlink from The Guardian, which came absolutely organically. It wasn't something that I outreached and tried to get, but it came from them just wanting to link to a piece of content that I'd written that was really, really well written and was very relevant to the piece that they were writing about. And from there, I just noticed that the traffic suddenly went up like massively. And I was like, okay, this is what I need to focus on, getting this amazing content out there, but also thinking about how I can get other backlinks as well.
Love it. And obviously, when you first started Dex Digital, like you said, a lot of it was sort of manual hours being put in to get that success. And obviously now being like head of SEO comes with a lot more responsibility, a lot sort of longer hours. Are you sort of like leveraging AI to sort of keep Dex Digital pushing forward in the background? And are there any sort of tools in particular that you'd recommend for sort of people, SEOs, to focus on for their side projects that maybe do a lot but don't take up as much time?
Yeah. So, are we still here? Sorry, I think I just froze for a second. Sorry about that. Yeah, so AI. So what I started off doing when ChatGPT first became sort of a thing a couple of years ago, I started a blog which I specifically only used AI generated content on, mainly as a test just to see, does it work? Does it rank? I used a tool called Byword, which is a fantastic AI tool where you can just pop in keywords or page titles and it'll generate a blog post for you. And it's really, really well written as well, compared to the likes of ChatGPT, which kind of spouts out a lot of nonsense, and it's also very repetitive as well. So yeah, I built out a blog using Byword to populate all the posts after I'd done my initial keyword research, and it flew for a very long time. The traffic just grew and grew and grew. However, more recently, the traffic has started declining. So it's quite obvious that Google has spotted that is AI generated and it's not as visible as it once was. But, it was a really, really interesting test to see, does it work? And yeah, it did for a while, but actually what we need to be producing across blogs and across our clients' websites is human generated content. I can't remember the second part of your question there, Darius, sorry.
No, I think I was just saying if there was any sort of tools in particular, like you mentioned there, and that you would recommend for people.
Yeah. So the other side of it as well, which was the other part I was going to mention as well, is using AI obviously to speed up processes as well, which is what I very much do, not just for the blogs, but in my day job as well. I think it's just fantastic at being able to speed up how you sort of fill out spreadsheets, and if you're doing some technical work as well, like redirects, it just helps in terms of just making things more efficient in a way. So yeah, I always recommend AI in terms of speeding up your processes and efficiency. But yeah, when it comes to content, it's definitely something I'm avoiding going forward.
Excellent. And obviously, as the head of SEO, how do you sort of navigate AI with the team, and how do you make sure that you're sort of being that thought leader for the team in terms of the newest updates and the newest sort of models being released?
Yeah, so quite recently we actually had a workshop on AI and how we can best use it to sort of improve our processes and the efficiency of the agency. So it's really, really important to me that the team sort of adopt AI. I think for a lot of people, it seems like really, really scary. A lot of people are worried that it's going to replace their jobs. So they're kind of scared to sort of go into it. But for me, I really, really feel that it's just going to help us as an agency to become more efficient. So I'm a big sort of cheerleader of AI and making sure, we're not writing content with it, but it's helping us to sort of pinpoint sort of themes within different keyword buckets, by pasting information into there, or it's helping us to sort of make recommendations. It's great as well for me when I have to email clients and I'm like, how do I get everything that's in my head into a very nice, concise, professional email? I do like to just throw that into AI, all my thoughts, and it will just spit out something that I can then sort of tweak. But it's saving me that time of 20 minutes to write an email to get it nice and concise and professional. It just helps with little things like that, really.
Awesome. I wanted to move on to communication, and I actually want to shout out Ranking Raccoon. You did an article and interview with them recently as well, which is very interesting. So anyone that's listening, go read it after this. But you mentioned about wanting to help SEO break out of the silo that it was in. So it's quite interesting. It's been a topic of discussion with ours within the webinars since probably the existence of our webinars. But how did you manage with House Digital and now with Tell Agency to promote sort of that breaking out of silos and integrating different departments and teams to help sort of uplift and boost SEO and the SEO department?
Yeah, so how we work at Tell Agency is we have different departments for content, for digital PR, for SEO, and then for paid as well. So for me, it's really, really important that we're not just working within our own departments and not communicating, because otherwise we're not going to be able to sort of work together to drive that strategy for the clients and get those really, really important results. So since I've joined Tal, it's been sort of like one of my key missions really to improve the communication, not really between content and digital PR and SEO really, because that was already sort of solidified, but how we communicate and sort of align with the paid team. So for me, that's really, really important, because what we're seeing now from an SEO point of view is how important the Google Merchant Center is, and making sure that's spot on so that we can get those free listing visibility. So Merchant Center is no longer just a tool for the paid department. It's also really, really important for SEOs as well. But I can't just go in there and start making tweaks without, liaising with the paid department first, because I don't want to break anything that's going to obviously impact their performance as well. So I'm really, really lucky that I work with a fantastic group of people here at TAL within the paid department. But what we're doing is just making sure we're aligning across our clients. We're having like weekly check-ins, weekly sprints to understand how are our e-com clients performing from both a paid and SEO perspective. And we're making sure that when we're reporting to clients as well, that it's much more aligned. So it's not just, here's what we did on SEO, here are the results. Here's what we did on paid, here are the results. But this is what we're doing as a team to drive visibility across Google from both a paid and an SEO perspective. So that is something that as I said, I've been really keen to implement since I joined TAL, and it's working really, really well so far. But yeah, I think communication is absolutely key, but also just sharing of information and making sure we're all aligned as a team. We are very big at TAL and making sure that we don't have segmented calls with clients as well. We all join and we all sort of listen to what we're working on as well, so that there's no sort of like misunderstanding between what the different departments are doing.
Awesome. And just sort of in line with the communication theme, you were once promoted internally into head of SEO, and with TAL, you joined as a head of SEO. Do you have any tips for SEOs that are being promoted internally to sort of help enhance communication within their teams versus your situation at TAL now and how you've been communicating with the team?
Yeah, tips for communication. I think it's just really, really important. Every agency is different and they have different ways of sort of communicating, and it very much depends as well on sort of how you work as a team, whether you're sort of going to the office or you're working remotely as well. But I think just for me, I'm always making sure I'm communicating, daily on Slack, setting up sort of internal sprint sessions, whether that's when we're in the office doing that together there, or setting up calls so that we can do that as well. I think as an SEO, or for anybody working in digital marketing, especially in an agency, it's so busy. There's always so many deliverables to get over the line, and there's always sort of things that sort of just come out of nowhere that you have to pivot towards. It's making sure that those meetings that you've set up, or that communication sort of structure that you've set up, still happens, because it's very, very easy when something pops up to say, oh, I will just forget about that meeting, it's not important now. It actually is really, really important to make sure that everybody is still aligned on what we're working on. So for me, it's making sure that you're not dropping meetings and for the detriment of the team, really, because they really sort of rely on that communication, especially from leadership and senior people within the team.
Awesome. And when you joined TAL, obviously, like, this was moving into, you joined as a head of SEO. Were there any sort of ways that you helped work towards integrating yourself into the team in your first, no, it's leading up to 3 months now, so 90 days. But did you have any plans when you first initially joined on how you wanted to integrate yourself within the team, and how you've sort of helped align and gel well with the team at the moment?
Yeah, so obviously it's hard when you join a new agency. It's suddenly, all these new faces and everybody's got their own sort of ways of working. But obviously I have come in with my own ideas and my own ways of working as well. So initially what I did was I set up sort of one-to-one meetings with all the other people that I'd be working closely with, just to understand how do they work at the moment, what are the challenges that they're facing, what sort of blockers do they have, how can I support them going forward, how can I do my job in the best way. And then I sort of gave myself sort of 30 to 45 days to sort of just take everything in, you know, and understand, like, how does it work at the moment? What would I do based on my previous experience to sort of make things better in terms of efficiencies or processes? And then I had a meeting with the directors at that sort of 45-day mark to say, look, gosh, you know, you're doing amazingly as an agency. You've got all these plans to grow. This is how I feel that we can make some changes to either improve efficiency or processes, which they took on board. And then I was able to work closely with other people to roll those out as well, which has been great. But it is challenging when you come into a new environment, because you have to not only sort of prove yourself to the people who've hired you, but also prove yourself to your peers as well, and show that you do know what you're doing. But I think by having those initial calls and, you know, explaining who I am, how I work, and having that conversation about how can I support you, that really, really helped. And then I hope sort of proved my experience and my worth by then. I was set sort of the objective of getting some new strategies for some of our bigger clients in place. I very much involved the team in those too, by asking so here's what I think, what are your guys' thoughts, please input into it, and having that collaborative approach. And I think that's worked really, really well to, you know, I've not just come in and said, this is how we are doing things. I've really involved the team and asked for their feedback and asked for what they think is the best way to work, whether that's client side or, you know, internally.
Awesome.
And Nicola, how important is it to get that sort of buy-in from C-suite or from the owners? And do you have any sort of advice to somebody who's maybe in a similar situation to how about going about to achieve that, whether that's the presentation side of things, or like what sort of data you collected to sort of prove that those efficiencies that you were suggesting would work?
Yeah, I think it's really, really important. Obviously, the directors, when I first joined, explained to me what their objectives were as an agency. And one of the key reasons I wanted to join TAL was because I was excited to sort of be able to contribute into the growth targets that they've got over sort of the next 12 months. I think as well, they're all very busy people. They've got their own sort of priorities that they're working on. So being able to sort of work by myself and pull that together without asking them a million questions really has helped them as well. And, you know, they were obviously really, really receptive to some of the ideas that I had. But I think, yeah, it's certainly a very interesting time for TAL, because we've got a lot of objectives to grow, and we've had a really, really successful Q4 in terms of the results for our clients as well. So it's just an exciting time, and having that relationship with the directors has been really, really important.
Oh, awesome. I interestingly enough saw that LinkedIn had helped you find TAL agency. Do you have any tips on personal branding as an SEO, and any tips to SEOs that are looking, especially on LinkedIn, which is such a battlefield of jobs and applications flying around, stand out on their social media presence or their online presence, and put yourself in the situation of if you were hiring, would you look for anything on their LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think it's really, really important for all people that are working in SEO to think about their personal branding. And I think obviously LinkedIn is the best platform where you can sort of showcase that. So I've always been somebody that posts as much as I can on LinkedIn, you know, whether that's results that I've seen from my clients or things that I've learned, or even just, you know, personal things as well. Like I've posted on there about some of the volunteering work that I do in my spare time with the beavers, or, you know, having a really successful week at work, and here's a picture of my Aperol Spritz. Like, I think that was one of my most popular posts. It got a lot of likes. But yeah, I think it's really, really important because, yeah, obviously that helped me secure my job at TAL, because the directors saw my CV, then they clicked on my LinkedIn and they could see all the different things that I was posting about. So, if you're looking for a new role, definitely be posting on there. But it's also a really, really great way to sort of interact with your client base and with other SEOs as well. So I know a lot of my clients are looking at the things that I post on LinkedIn. They may not comment or like it, but they're reading them. And, that's a great way for me to showcase some of the different things that we're doing as an agency. But yeah, making those relationships with other SEOs is really, really important as well, because LinkedIn is where I take a lot of my learnings from. So by having posted more on LinkedIn over the last few years, I've then been able to meet other people within the SEO industry as well, which has then helped when I've gone to webinars or I've gone to different sort of like Brighton SEO, or I went to the International Search Summit as well. I can then feel confident enough to sort of approach those people when I meet them too, because we've sort of had that connection on LinkedIn. So there's a lot of different benefits to having that personal brand on SEO. On LinkedIn, you're sort of like more sort of well known within the SEO sort of space, but it also helps with the client side of things as well, and sort of promoting your agency.
That's awesome. It's very interesting. I always leave this accidentally to the last question, but for any of your clients that are potentially listening, do you have any future predictions for 2025 and where you see SEO going this year?
Yeah, so this is yeah, this is a very common question I get asked all the time. Obviously, the SEO space is changing dramatically, with the introduction of AI and the way that Google seems to be pivoting towards a sort of zero-click model as well. They're looking to sort of retain as much traffic as they can on the SERP before the user is right at the bottom of the funnel, and sort of then sending them on to, e-com sites in particular. So I'm very interested to understand how different search engines may be emerging, especially these AI-driven search engines. I'm seeing for a lot of my clients that they're getting a lot more clicks and they're ramping up from the likes of ChatGPT, Perplexity. So I'm very interested in understanding how LLMs are going to work going forward in terms of the search space, but also how we sort of manage client expectations as traffic starts dropping, because people are getting their information maybe from an AI overview, and how we sort of pivot towards getting more visibility within the organic product grid space, which goes back to what I was saying about Merchant Center earlier. So that is sort of how I see SEO sort of going in 2025. It's going to be moving more towards less clicks coming through from Google, but potentially more clicks coming from other types of search engines. And how do we pivot our strategies to sort of scoop even more of those up?
Awesome. Very interesting. Yeah, that wraps up our time, Nicola. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope everyone that was listening, enjoyed today's talk. And if you have any questions for Nicola, go give her a follow and ask her all the questions in her inbox. But thank you so much for coming on. And if anyone wants to find you, we will be linking you on YouTube and Spotify. We'll give you a shout out on socials as well. So thank you so much, and hope you have a great weekend.
You too, guys. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, Nicola.